Ooh. Oh, hello, Bud. How you going?
Good. Can we milk the cow?
Oh, I think so. What, you can ready now?
Yeah.
All right, come on, let's go.
Every year, an increasing number of Australians are affected by eye disease. For some, blindness is inevitable. For others, there is hope of a sighted future. Bart was born with severe eye defects, resulting in the irreversible loss of most of his sight. With residual vision in only one eye, his doctors feel that it's wiser to preserve the little sight he has than to risk operations that have a high rate of failure.
Because this is the eye you see with, isn't it?
Yes.
It's amazing little eye, isn't it? It's clear, it got a little clearer since you first came to see me, when you were a little baby. And of course this one doesn't see, it's an artificial one. And you said that this is the one that people think you see with. It looks very natural.
Because it moves around, I think, probably.
Yeah, moves well. It's amazing how it's improved. You were telling me you can see things, letters and things,
Yes.
Let's see if that's the case.
A back to front E.
Back to front E.
Yeah.
Oh, well, and let me get to see what's it like now?
A W, kind of.
A W.
But not really.
What's it look like now?
An E.
Looks like an E.
Yeah.
Can you see it any further back here?
No.
No, it's got to be up about.
It's got to be about there.
Of those that are regarded as legally blind, only about 15 or 20% are completely without sight. And this is important to recognize because it means that that residual vision will allow firstly a degree of mobility. It allows a degree of control of the environment, which is precious to the individual. It is also important to recognize because it means that those that are legally blind need ongoing eye care because these eyes are prone to the other causes of blindness we find in the community.
How much milk today?
Not too bad.
Bart is classified as blind, well, he is blind, and but he can still see a small amount. Bart always likes to maximise it. I feel he has fairly minimal amount, but it's certainly enough for him to get around with, and because he has that determination, no matter how small it was, he'd make it appear a lot larger.
Yeah, I can see colours. Can't judge distance very well at all. I can tell how high things are. I can tell. Oh, I can see you, but I can't see your face or anything. It's a face. It's got a purple hat.
Bart attends St Lucy's School for blind and visually handicapped children.
And a red nose.
The students here are generally aged between 5 and 12 and suffer from a variety of eye disorders. As well as the standard curriculum, St Lucy's places emphasis on communication, braille, mobility and daily living skills, so that many of the children can enter a normal high school.
He definitely knows he's different. He would like to think he's not different, and he just goes to extremes, I think, to prove that he's every bit as good as anyone else, and really not that different at all. He can do what his peers can do, if not better. He likes to show them he can do as well as, if not better. We try not to inhibit him too much. Often, of course, we're a bit concerned about him having an accident, but we feel that sort of negates the pluses for letting him do what he wants to do, at least try it and have a go.
I've done some pretty good things. I'd never really been scared of climbing trees. Don't have to look where you're going. I'll hang on to a branch about that thin, as thin as the circle of your fingers, and it just doesn't break, it bends, and you end up at the bottom of the cliff. It's real fun. I've done it out of a tree about high as this house, and the branch snapped. Fell right down the middle, grazed my stomach. My friend was up there, he started coming down real quick to get me, and got up, had a big graze on my stomach, climbed back up the tree.
There's a great need for further research into the causes of blindness in infancy and childhood. Although some people might think that their numbers of children involved is small, in terms of years of blindness, it's significant. And children have a whole lifetime ahead of them.
Pippa was born with congenital cataracts. I noticed probably the second day after she was born that she had a little white dot in her eye, and we believed that she was going to be blind. Initially, before the operation, I used to sit there and just look at the little white dot in her pupil, and I wished that I could just pick it out. And I used to sit there and think, oh, if only I could just pick it out.
Yeah, they were your words. Yeah.
I just always, if I could get a little tweezers and just pick it out. But I knew my medical training told me that that just was not reality. I went through a stage where every time I looked at her, I cried. It's not because I didn't love her, because I loved her very much. It was just that it was so hurtful to me to look at her and think, you know, why has this happened, you know? And I couldn't, and no one could tell me, all right, it's this or it's that. It's just, you know, and I couldn't comprehend why it actually had happened, and I just was sad for her.
Cataract is an opacity or cloudiness of the lens within the eye. In most cases, the diseased lens can be removed through surgical procedure.
With Philippa, we operated when she was 6 weeks old. It's very important to intervene early with children and to remove the diseased lens, because unless the brain gets clear pictures within the first 3 months of life, the vision will not develop normally. An adult can have a cataract and be there for 10, 20, 30 years, and you remove it, they'll immediately see. The child has had cataract from birth, obstructing both eyes and vision if it's left there more than 3 months, and it's done later, the vision will be severely impaired.
Like all young cataract patients, Philippa must now wear contact lenses or glasses to correct for the loss of her natural lenses.
Girl, you never look at your book? Oh, look. Is it birdie? Is it the birdie? We were told that she, without her glasses or lenses, is classified blind. A lot of the time, if you go to take her glasses off, she doesn't let you. She really is attached to them. And I felt that putting the lenses in may cause a problem, but she, as soon as had her lenses in, didn't want her glasses. So my belief of her actually wanting the material of the glasses rather than just the sight wasn't true. I think she just wanted the sight.
Light!
Where is it? Could you point to where it is?
We first noticed that she could start seeing lights, and then probably at about 4 months she started just to follow her face. And I thought, wow, and I mean most mothers would look at their child and think, oh, that's sweet. I just couldn't believe what she had done. Like, that's something, that was the first time that I felt she can see.
Because we're both sort of observant to the world around us, and we're into nature and things like that, and trees and flowers and little details, fine details of nature. And initially to sort of think that she'll never be able to enjoy those things, really, it hurt my heart, you know, to think that she wouldn't be able to enjoy that with us. But, you know, she comes up to flowers and, you know, she sticks her face into the flower and has a good sniff, and unprompted, and she sees so many things and enjoys so many things.
Clearly, for every newborn child to have a detailed eye examination would represent a tremendous economic cost. Certainly there are a group of that we would regard as high-risk children from eye problems, and any baby that is born prematurely must be examined, in my view.
Amongst premature babies, the incidence of turned eye or a squint is 25% overall, whereas in the community it's less than 5%. There's an increased incidence of short-sightedness. There's an increased incidence of blindness. About 15% of blindness in the first year of life is related to prematurity. The amount of oxygen given to the premature baby has always been thought to be the factor, but the prematurity itself seems to be equally important, and the smaller the baby, the greater the risk. So they're all routinely screened, all babies that are under 1,500 grams and under 32 weeks.
Eye disease can occur at any time of life. Vivian was only 24 when her sight started to fail.
Well, I've got diabetes, diabetic retinopathy, and I knew that diabetes could cause a lot of illnesses or problems, and I knew that it could cause retinopathy. However, I think you probably don't ever think it's going to happen to you. I think you always think that what seem like really big crises always happen to somebody else. They never happen to you, so it came as a bit of a shock.
Diabetes is a disease in which there's a disturbance in the body's ability to use sugar, and it's associated with a disturbance in the small blood vessels throughout the body. The retina contains fine blood vessels, and in diabetic retinopathy there's an abnormality in these fine blood vessels which may bleed or grow out of control.
I need to use large print, basically use large print. Sometimes I can read small print, but only for a short period of time. I need to, at work, I need to use tapes and speech synthesis on a computer, or large print on a computer. And as far as it goes in everyday life, it's hard to work out who people are, see features of people. So everything is basically like looking through a fog or a haze. And my colour vision has also been affected quite severely.
Recognised at the right time, diabetic retinopathy is amenable to treatment with the laser. And in fact, if one destroys the very diseased parts, the vision will be retained. And it is now possible that 60% of people who would have gone blind now have retained their vision throughout life with this treatment. The treatment does involve, of course, destroying the retina, so it does have effects upon vision in those areas, but the trade is damaging the retina selectively to preserve residual vision so that the patient can live out a sighted life.
It does work for most people, and there are some people who it doesn't work for. So yes, you expect to be one of those people it'll work for. So when it doesn't, it comes as a bit of a surprise. But then I think that it has worked to one degree or another. I mean, if it hadn't worked, I'd be totally blind.
One morning there, I just happened to get up one Saturday morning reading the paper, and the print just faded away. And so I made arrangements to go to the eye specialist, and they diagnosed that I had retinitis pigmentosa, which is commonly known as tunnel vision or night blindness. I think it progressively starts off as night blindness and then works into tunnel vision. That's the way it affected me, because I found it very hard to see at night time, even from when I can remember. But then the tunnel vision came in later on, so because my peripheral vision closed in on me. The peripheral vision is the outside vision, and it just sort of closed into, just imagine looking through a donut, and you'd see how I actually see then. And you just don't see anything on the outsides at all, you just see straight ahead. They told me that they can't do anything for me. The retinitis pigmentosa is incurable. It's a disease of the retina, and At the moment, they cannot do anything with the retina. It's a hereditary problem, and the boys have to go back to get checked to see whether they have any signs of it. And with me, they couldn't go back into my family because I was adopted, and so I'm the start of it.
Retinitis pigmentosa often affects people during their working life. After 8 years of deteriorating sight, Frank lost both his driver's licence and his job.
After 12 months at home, I plucked up the courage to ring the Blind Society and ask for help. And that was a whole new change in my life. My mobility and independence has been brought back to me by the use of the cane, and then from the cane to the guide dog. And I didn't realise how a guide dog would affect me even more than the cane. I thought the cane was wonderful, but once I came back with the guide dog, my mobility was far greater.
Frank now has a job with the Royal Blind Society, distributing supplies to the recreation workshops.
I thought, this is great. I'm being useful again. I'm in the workforce. I'm paying tax, you know, doing all those things that I used to do, you know, and meeting new people. And we have a little family support group amongst various families. We meet once a month, and what they get out of it is tremendous in their attitudes, because we all help each other, discussing our little problems, comparing, you know, the problems that we'd had, like funny little instances, you know, like bumping into people, going into the pictures in the dark, sitting on people's lap, you know. Things that we had in common, like, you know, when you went from the light into the dark, you'd sort of stand inside and blow your nose and pretend to get your wallet out just to fool around so that your eyes could recover to walk around in the dark. It's hard to lose your sight at any age of your life, whether it be midlife, late life or early life. It's the coping with it is the hardest thing, and until you hit the bottom of the barrel, there's only one way, then that's up.
By far the largest group of people affected by eye disease is the aged population. Cataract, for example, the most treatable condition, affects 50% of people over 75. With the growing trend towards an ageing population, it's estimated that the numbers affected by this disease could increase up to 35% by the year 2000.
Cataract surgery successfully reverses blindness in 95% of the adult cases. But it does represent an increasing economic cost. At the present time, about 28,000 cataract operations are done a year in Australia at a cost of over $100 million. Now, if we could delay the onset of cataract in the ageing population by, as say, 10 years, then this would halve the amount of surgery that needs to be done. And so I think that in this particular area, we should look to research to help us find the answers and to identify the causes of this disease.
As yet, medicine has no cure for macular degeneration, a condition which affects a person's central vision, deteriorating that part of their sight that they use for reading or detailed work.
I used to crochet, I used to knit, I used to do a lot of foreign fancy work. I make my own clothes, always made all my kids' clothes. I mean, when you know you can't even mend a sheet, I've got a machine there in the corner, it's never opened. I don't know who will end up with it. I'll end up giving it to one of the first granddaughter that can sail, I'll give it to her.
We estimate that it's possible that 1 in 4 people over 60 may have this condition to some degree or other. It doesn't respect class, creed, or race, and in this society it's the commonest, very common and important cause of blindness. I've sometimes said to patients, your eyes are older than you are. In other words, the reading part of the eye, which is a very small area, less than 1/4 millimetre in diameter, can be destroyed with profound loss of ability to see detail. The exact cause of it we don't really know. And because it's so slow, people invariably blame their glasses.
You'll see people taking their glasses off and wiping them all the time. They say, oh, I've got, you know, the glasses are dirty. The glasses aren't dirty. It's their eyes that they can't see out of it, isn't their glasses? And you feel sometimes if you've got a cobweb across your eyes and you're wiping it off, and it's not there at all. I know small children that have been born blind, and I think, well, they can only be taught how to feel, how things feel, and how to smell and how to touch. That's their whole life. But they'll never know what things really look like. They'd never know what a garden full of flowers look like, or they'd never know really what their mother's face looks like. They'd never know what a puppy dog looks like, or a way they could feel it. So, I mean, look how much they miss out on. It's very sad. And I feel that you're terribly lucky to be able to see even a little bit. Even if you've got to put it right up to your face, it doesn't matter.
Glaucoma is a disease which progressively destroys the optic nerve. Although the condition cannot be cured, in 90% of cases, blindness can be prevented through the use of prescribed drops and other medications.
Well, about 15, 16 months ago, I was due for a new set of glasses. I've been wearing spectacles for about 28 years. And I walked to my usual optometrist, and he was on holiday, and he had the young locum there, and he did a test on me. It was a very simple test. It's like a puff of air into each eye. He repeated the test and looked at me, and I said, what is that? He said, well, it's a test for glaucoma. And he urged me the same day to see an ophthalmologist, right? Which I did. I was naturally anxious and worried. And further tests reveals that I suffer in a bad way from glaucoma. And naturally I had a lot of questions to ask, and my doctor was kind enough to answer them. I was absolutely horrified when he told me I face blindness from the disease. I'm a very inquisitive person, always was. So I started asking questions about glaucoma. My information I have from England, Germany and America, the head of population, Australia should have approximately 80,000 sufferers. Till about 5 months ago, I came across a little brochure which is printed by the Health Commission of New South Wales. It was printed in 1980. The Commission admits that in 1980, in New South Wales alone, we had 40 to 50,000 sufferers. I was actually stunned about that. So it's very simple deduction to say that we have 200,000 people. What is frightening is that the majority is unaware of it. Blood relatives of a glaucoma sufferer have a 1 in 5 chance to get the disease. Now, since I brought 3 children over to Australia, now I'm the grandfather of 5 grandchildren, I felt a moral obligation that I had to do something. Because in a civilized country like Australia, we can't let these things happen, that people can go blind just because nobody bothered to tell them. So I decided to start a national awareness campaign on that disease that included traveling by car and caravan right around Australia for about 12 to 18 months, give exhibitions, show video clips, general talks on glaucoma to make the public aware.
Have you ever heard of glaucoma?
Yeah, my father has it, yeah.
Your father has it?
Yes.
Do you also know that your chances is 1 in 5 that you might get it?
Yes.
You do?
Yes, because it's hereditary, I know.
Ah, excellent.
I know very well that I, as a one-man vehicle, cannot achieve a national awareness. But I've been hoping that my action will stir other people in doing the same what I try to do, the awareness. And if we all pull together on the same rope, in no time, we will be exactly at the same level or even surpassing other countries as far as research is concerned, money available for research is concerned, and the general awareness.
Although there have been great advances in the treatment of eye disease over the last 30 years, they have brought with them an ever-increasing demand on eye health services, causing doctors and specialists in this field to speculate on how medical services can cope without a change in community attitudes.
We accept the medical advances as though that's what medicine's about, giving us cures. But in that process and transaction, we forget nearly all of the medical treatments that are available today are the result of research. At least now, there's an increasing awareness of the need to look at the area of prevention of blindness and to direct research monies in that area. The final extrapolation would be working for the redundancy of doctors, and that would be a happy day, I think.